everyone, welcome to another Animation Friday. I apologize that these videos are going to be uploaded late. This week has been very busy for me, so I haven't had a chance to update the most current videos, but I'm going to be doing 3 videos today, so once that's all established, I will continue on with the regular schedule. It's just that this Labor Day in particular has been rather busy, so without further ado, let me discuss anime and manga. And that's really the two kinds of styles, or really the two types of animation that are Japanese and that are oriented to be for Japanese audiences. And I'm sort of going to talk about a little bit of the history and how anime and manga has evolved over the years. Initially, Japanese animation was stemmed from comics. During World War II, which is really where we saw comics being utilized in Japan, is with, in particular, World War II, where we saw a lot of propaganda that was used in the form of comics, or comic-like strips to sort of emphasize a certain point that would sort of get the people rallied up to be for Japan. And that's really the starting point of how sort of animation, where it really stemmed from, where it really evolved from. Similar to in Western culture, where we had it within newspapers, but within Japan it was mostly based within comic strips. And it again started more with propaganda, whereas comics in the Western culture, I think, were more generated to be rather like humorous or maybe a little bit political, but I don't think really full-out propaganda. But that's how it was done basically during World War II. And the interesting thing about Japanese animation is that it really started from a wider audience in general. There was a wide appeal for kids, adults, and teenagers, so it really stemmed as being a market for various demographics. However, after World War II, there is this cartoonist named Osamu Tezuka, and basically he created and I want to pronounce this correctly, the Shintakarujima, and he was largely inspired by Walt Disney and by the Western style of animation. And his though sort of opus work was Tetsuwan Otomu, which is Astro Boy. And this, I guess, ultimately gave him the title of the father of manga and anime. So he was the one who really started this movement towards cartoons in Japan. And he was really the initial person that other Japanese artists tried to emulate. He also, I think, not only was he influenced by Walt Disney, but I think he was influenced by other Western styles like French cartoons and things like that. So there was like different influences going on, and I think ultimately what usually cultures do is they take those influences and sort of create their own understanding from it that appeals and sort of applies to their culture. And that's, I think, what Japanese animation did it took these various elements that it saw within Western animation and made its own completely revolutionary style. And basically he formed Mushi Productions. And then also Tezuka made this other cartoon called The Jungle Taitei, which is a animated film that actually some people say, supposedly, in animation circles, that The Lion King did copy from this one, or it used significant portions of the film to make its own film. And there's been some controversy as to whether or not this is true. Disney has openly, I think, denied that they've ever copied or intended to copy from his work, but that's sort of the rumor that's spread about this particular work that he was responsible for making. But unfortunately, his studio went bankrupt after all over the years, and despite that bankruptcy, though, there were other animators that were emerging. Akira Toriyama, Rumiko Takashi, Hayao Miyazaki, the one I talked about recently, Isao Takahata, which again partnered with Miyazaki, and they were the ones that eventually sort of really were responsible for creating the sort of animation that we've seen in the past, and some of what we see in the present. So they're sort of the modern Japanese animators, at least from my research. Those were the names that came to mind. The interesting thing about, in particular, Japanese animation is how it's really inspired a lot from comics. Western animation is similar in that respect with regards to superheroes. But beyond that, I think Western animation has been a little bit more broader. Whereas Japanese animation, I think, focuses really on a distinct style. You really do see the distinctness with Japanese animation. They always make their characters with these really big eyes. They have these. Sometimes they have like these really crazy hairstyles and like different colors even sometimes. It's very wacky and out there. Maybe one of the reasons why I don't really appeal to this kind of animation, but it does work for some, and there's a lot of people who do enjoy Japanese animation and enjoy the style. And usually animation is, again, inspired by the comics, because manga is basically a comic strip, or usually most of the Japanese animation has come from traditionally a comic strip. Like, it starts out as a comic strip book series, so you'll have a book series of Japanese comics, and then that will become a show if it's very popular. And I think that's really how the marketing works. If you can get enough people to enjoy your comic strip series, then hence there'll be films and TV shows made from it. And you see this a lot with Japanese animation. They've used books, in particular comic books, as a means to ultimately distribute the animation to the public if they think it's worthy to distribute to the public. And so I think this is where you get a lot of people invested in particular the comic, and if you start with that, then it only can go well for you from there. And I think we've seen this in the United States too, where there is a lot of Japanese animation that was really popular and that people really got behind, and as a result we have a lot of TV shows and films that are from these Japanese comic strips. So that's really the important bulk work of anime and manga. Like, basically, this is really how it started, sort of, and how it's evolved. You can probably tell the difference between time periods depending on whose animation style you're looking at. But the Japanese style in particular, I think, is very distinct, and also the fact that they stem a lot of their material off of comics is really what's, I think, made them distinct, and why a lot of people sort of, I think, get behind the idea of Japanese animation and Japanese art. And this is a very, I guess, important aspect of their art, similar to how in Western culture we really like the artists like classical artists like Michelangelo. In Japan, they like these animated cartoonists because they really sort of had a way of revolutionizing the culture and spreading it to a larger extent, and as a result there's been a lot of positive feedback from other cultures in regards to this style of animation and this comic book world that really revolutionized Japanese animation into a film art form. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say in regards to anime and manga. I really don't know a huge amount, but what I've explained here is really the bulk work of what ultimately makes manga and anime what it is. It's sort of hard for me to distinguish the difference. I don't know if manga is just the comics themselves, and if anime is just the animated cartoons, if it's that distinction. I think that's the distinction, at least from what I can tell. But basically, that's really ultimately all I can say. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. But until the next video, everybody, take care and bye-bye.